What's up, Bulldogs? Let's talk about attraction, physical attraction today. I think this is something that I haven't really heard anyone talk about. And I think there's a lot of confusion around this. I think a lot of people, women included, don't really get this. They don't really understand what is kind of the basis of physical attraction. And this is really important because it ends up becoming very confusing in the sense that, I've done some videos and talked about this on podcasts where, women don't make as high of a preference. They don't place as high of an importance on the physical appearance of a man, whereas men generally, the physical appearance is a higher attraction trigger for men. And I've talked about how women are attracted to status, right? Essentially, right? And what does status comprise of? Well, it's kind of all the things. It's how other people view you, how other women view you, how you're valued in society, right? Your value as a man. That's kind of the shortcut heuristic that women use in order to vet a man or to, that makes them attractive. Now, there's obviously a physical attraction component to this as well, right? And when we say physical attraction, I think that the confusion is in what exactly is physical attraction, right? Now, if I were to show you a photograph of a woman, right, you could probably from that photograph determine whether or not you found her physically attractive, all right? The same would apply to a woman. If a woman sees a photograph of a man, she could say, okay, I find this guy attractive. I don't find this guy attractive, right? Just on the visual perception of that alone. Now, there's some subtleties in the photograph that you might not notice, right? So some of those subtleties would be the background, the environment, but we could eliminate that one. But it would also be the way that the person is standing, the expression on their face. As you know, you can have a very different photograph of a person than what they actually look like in real life. And that's not just because they've made cosmetic changes or photoshopped the photo. It's just the expression that they're making and the way that they're holding themselves can make them appear more attractive or not, right? So there's these things that we don't really even notice, but if you were to see that same person in person, you're probably going to get a different idea of their attractiveness level. Now, the first time that I ever learned this was when I worked, when I was a model at a modeling agency, actually, of all things, when I was much younger. And I often, as a young man in the modeling agency, would see pictures of the girl models that were, what do they call them? Like the laser prints or the calling cards, right? The almost portfolio. And some of these women, I'd be like, wow, that's girl's coming to the agency. She's pretty hot, right? And, other women I would not really think much of, right? And what was funny about that, was interesting, was that when you would see one of these models in person, many times it was the exact opposite of what I thought in the picture, right? When I met one of these women, oftentimes the woman that appeared the most attractive in the picture was actually not the most physically attractive in person, and vice versa. And, I didn't quite understand this. I didn't really think much about this, and I don't think very many people do. And some people would say, oh, well, the photo, I think maybe the way that we justify this in our head was like, okay, well, that was, a photo is Photoshopped, the lighting, whatever it was. But there's a little bit more to that, and that's what I really want to talk about in this video, as we're just getting into it, which is that when you see a face, all right, let's say, your brain decodes a lot of information from that face. Have you ever looked at a face and thought about, faces are kind of weird, right? I mean, you got like this big honky nose in the middle of a face. You've got these big gelatinous balls that are eyeballs, right? Teeth, right? Even facial hair. Ears are kind of weird things as well. And I mean, how much do eyebrows affect a face? But it's so weird, right? Those things are kind of weird, right? So a face is kind of a weird thing. It's not really artistic. I mean, in our brain, we see a beautiful face, and our brain does all these calculations and says, no, this is a beautiful face, right? But my point in saying that is that the concept of beauty in that regard is very abstract All right. It is not concrete. You look at a sunset, you look at a painting, whatever, you can see the beauty in that, the colors, the things like that. That's a lot more concrete, right? It's a lot more objective. Whereas we do have objective beauty standards. Like, you can generally, people will converge on what they find attractive, both in men and women, although there are differences. But where I'm really getting at is this, and this is the key thing to understand, is that when you see a person and you meet a person, instantly there's a bunch of micro expressions and all these other things and pheromones and all of these other things that are going on in order for your brain to process the image of their face. Now back up, listen to what I said. In order for your brain to process the image of their face. We're not even talking about their body. We're not even talking about just that. In fact, the body does represent that as well. Because have you noticed as a man, that most women that have an attractive body have an attractive face? How is that possible? Does that make much sense? Except it does make sense when you look at it in terms of the light that I'm talking about, which is the idea that it's the overall perception that you get of a person that tricks your brain into seeing a person's face differently. And this applies to both men and women. And women are not even aware of this. Most people aren't aware of this. But it's very, very important to know as a man, right? Because what the thing you should be focusing on as a man is your masculinity. Because if you come across as a polarizing figure, as a masculine figure to a woman, right? If you understand how to portray yourself that way, if you truly are that, honestly, and that's really the key to it. It's not even portraying yourself, but if you become more masculine, when women see you, they're not going to see the face in your picture. Okay, they're going to see something different. And even that face in the picture is going to be slightly different because of the way your expressions show themselves in that. You can sort of get an idea of a person from their picture, right? It's not as accurate, but when a woman sees you in person, her idea of your physical attractiveness is not going to be based on just your looks, okay? It's going to be based on your full presence. And the thing is, other people will confirm the same thing. The only way that you'll be able to really tell the difference is between a picture. Now, I'm not saying that this is 100% of it. I'm not saying that your actual facial characteristics or body characteristics don't matter at all. What I am saying is that if you like a person, if you're attracted to a person, you become physically attracted to them, and you can't really separate the difference. You don't know objectively what the difference is, and that's the experience that people have, right? And you might have experienced this as well. The best way to see this in action is with celebrities, right? Again, we come back to the idea that women are attracted to status, okay? But even as a man, right? I've been out of the kind of media thing for a while. Like, I'm not very much into pop culture and things like that. I don't really watch TV. I don't really listen to music. I stay away from advertisements for the most part. All right. I see some things from time to time, but there's been plenty of women that guys are going crazy about how attractive this woman is and whatnot, famous celebrity women. I won't name them right now, and I've looked at some of the pictures, right? Having not really seen them, all right, or not really know much because I don't care about that kind of stuff. And I've said, what? Are you kidding me? This woman is the most attractive woman that you've ever, like, are you kidding me? And part of the reason for that is because most of society has adopted this person as attractive because they haven't just seen the pictures. They've seen the video. They've seen the person moving and interacting and heard them talk. And there's also kind of a buzz around that person, which also influences that and makes you see something different. It tricks your brain into seeing the face differently. All right. Now, I don't have any scientific evidence for this, but I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is some evidence, some data about this. But you see this definitely with women, right? I give you a good example that a lot of people will debate me on, but take someone like Jason Momoa, right? Now, I used to watch Stargate Atlantis, and he was in Stargate Atlantis. That was a really good series, right? The whole Stargate series. But there was no craziness about Jason Momoa that at that time. I mean, he was in those episodes. He was there. Women weren't going crazy. I'm sure that women liked him on the episode, but I'm just saying there wasn't this craziness until Aquaman came out. But when Aquaman came out, the way that he presented himself specifically, and probably he had grown and changed in some ways as well, but he came across as a much more masculine man. And all of a sudden, women were just, going crazy about that, right? There's plenty of other examples where you can see this. And some of it, yes, is related to status, but also you have to understand that the status actually changes the perception as well, right? I could give you examples like guys like Owen Wilson, right, who has a crooked, broken nose. No offense to the guy, but he also sounds really weird. But there's something about him, his mannerisms, how he comes across, the roles that he's played in movies that have made him into an attractive figure. Whereas if you just saw his face, which you can't do now, and separated him from the guy that you'd probably be like, this is not an attractive guy. You could say the same thing about plenty of celebrities. So the point and why am I saying this? Like, what is the point in this? What is the value as a man for you to understand this? Well, it's sort of to counter this whole like Chad argument, right? Are things important like height? Yeah, height, yes, for sure. And there's in facial characteristics for sure. They're important, but they're not as important as what you think they are. And what you don't realize is that if you right now are a conventionally unattractive man, that doesn't mean that you always will be. Now that's a shocker, right? And I'm not talking about massive surgery or transformations in that way or losing a bunch of weight, although that certainly would help. I'm talking about if you start to carry yourself differently and present differently, people will see you differently and women will see you differently, and they will see your attractiveness level, your physical attractiveness level increase. You will see that happen. All right. Now, I know this for sure from my own experience, right? Which of course is limited. I can't extrapolate everyone's data from that, but to you, my face has changed significantly. If you look at my older photos or my really early videos, because it's a different guy. It's a different guy sitting here in front of this camera. Right now, again, it really doesn't matter, what your opinion on my attractiveness level is. I'm just saying that in my life, I have seen it, right? Sometimes I'm amazed. I'm like, wow, why does my wife find me so attractive? Not trying to toot my own horn here, but I'm just saying, like, I honestly am like, I know, I got a good physique. I'm fairly good looking, but to her, the level that she displays is extreme. And I don't think, she's not just shining me on because, I always sense that from her. And so the thing is it's how you're coming across. It's that perception that people have. And so as a man, you have to work on your masculinity and build that up. And as you build that up, then it can change for you. It really can change for you, right? So don't listen to all the people talking about, looks is everything and all that. It's not going to serve you well, and it's not the reality. And like I said, I think the debate comes down to, how important is physical attraction to women or looks, right? You could say, and some people will say, oh, it's not as much as it is to men, and that's true. And women are attracted to other things, other traits that a man has, and that's true. But also, the physical attractiveness is important. Even the people that say that it is really important, the problem is that what they're mixing up is they don't understand that these things are mixed up. That you can't separate the two out, at least, especially for a woman. A woman cannot separate the two out. She's going to see a guy as physically attractive based on a lot of those other traits. It's going to fool her mind into seeing his face as more attractive. All right. Now, that's something, like I said, I haven't heard anyone talk about, but I think it is important. Now, if you want to help develop your masculinity, you want some help developing your masculinity, I do have the Bulldog Mindset membership. There's a link down below in the description. Join us in there. I've got tons of lessons on fitness to improve your physique and all that, mindset stuff, relationships, dating, and money, right? To improve your financial situation and just improve yourself overall, to conquer basically the three biggest fears that all men face. and come out on top and develop your masculinity. And I think you will see that even if you're a not conventionally attractive guy, if you do some of the things I'm talking about in the Bulldog Mindset membership and you start to adopt that mindset, that you will see that you will actually appear more physically attractive to women. See you tomorrow.